Hello there, everyone. So today, for the finale for my Season 10 episode reviews, I'm going to be ranking all the episodes for Season 10. So there are only 4 episodes of Season 10, so I'll just be ranking them in order from last place, which will be 4th place, to 1st place. So yeah, let's get started. So in 4th place, we have episode 95, the season premiere, The Darkness Comes. I feel like this episode was really rushed, and its story kind of suffered in this episode. I mean, I'm not really fond of the Return of the Bounty. As I said in my episode review, I feel like this was a missed opportunity to do something better and invent something new. And on top of that, I just kind of feel like this episode was very rushed. I really like the scene where the Oni did come. It just felt really cool, and it was very reminiscent of past Ninjago scenes. And I thought that was done nicely. The soundtrack was really chilling, and I like that one scene where they come out of the realm crystal. But the rest of the episode kind of feels rushed, and there are some flaws, such as when the ninja in the shot are right down there, and the Oni clip stops moving when the ninja jump down there. So I'm not really sure what that's about, if their powers had no effect. So yeah, I do feel like there are some flaws with this episode. It was incredibly rushed. I would have liked to see the ninja evacuating some people, and I think that would have made for a little bit of more of an interesting plot. Ninja trying to evacuate people while, trying to escape the darkness themselves as well. I think that would have made for a little bit more of an interesting plot. But I will say the Garmadon scenes in this episode were really good, and I really loved the way that this episode moved with Garmadon's arc. And I gave this episode a 7.5 out of 10 in my review. And in the end, I would say that this episode was too rushed. Some parts of it were really good. I liked some of the elements in it, but I think it was too rushed. And again, I would have liked to see some more development in certain areas. In 3rd place, we have Into the Breach, and I think this is definitely a big step over episode 95. I really did like this episode, and I thought that it was, for the most part, pretty good. And what I liked about this episode was, unlike some of the other episodes in this season, it was not rushed. It felt like it had a good pace to it. But it did have its problems, such as the return of Garmadon's powers, and just the disregard of Garmadon's powers, the importance of it. I mean, the reason the Oni actually came were because Garmadon lost his powers in Season 9. So if he got him back, would the Oni just retreat or something? Yeah, that didn't really make sense. I didn't like the treating of Garmadon's powers as a switch that could just pretty much be turned on whenever, he wants to. And I think that's not really a good way to move with the explanation of his powers. But I really did like the fight scene with the Omega, and I feel like there were other cool things in this episode too, such as Garmadon looking at his old photo frame, but there are also flaws too. As I said in my review, I do not think the scene where the bounty nearly plummeted to the ground was necessary at all, and in a very short season where every second really counts, this was a scene that probably wasn't needed, and instead they could have moved, they could have done more to make some of the episodes feel less rushed maybe. And I think that's one thing that should not really have been in the episode. And again, the Jay and Dia story in this particular episode, it moved nowhere really. Just Jay going to propose, but then, Garmadon's there, so nope, he's not going to propose. Definitely a lot better than episode 95. It felt less rushed, but it still did have its flaws. So let me just say that I don't really think episode 98 is that much better than episode 96. I did have some trouble deciding where to put which episode in what order on this list. And in the end, I do think that episode 98 is a little bit better, and I will explain why shortly. I forgot to mention in the last segment, but I did give episode 96 an 8.5 out of 10, and I gave episode 98 an 8.75 out of 10. So it's just some small differences that made me like this episode more. And what I loved about this episode was the nostalgia factor. From the golden weapon scene to the tornado of creation, there is just a lot of nostalgia packed in there, and I feel like this episode succeeded in that way. However, let's just talk about some of the cons of this episode first. And this episode certainly did have its fair share of cons. It is very controversial among the community. I don't really like the rushed ending to this trilogy. I mean, I feel like had this been a 10-episode season, I think they would have given it a better ending than it deserved. But for 4 episodes, I don't think the tornado of creation was necessarily a bad ending. I mean, what else would they have done? Just clicked a button to erase all the Oni? I think the tornado of creation is certainly better than other potential endings for this 4 episodes. And again, I think had it been 10 episodes or more, even 6 episodes, we would have gotten a better conclusion. But for 4 episodes, I do feel like the conclusion was not that bad necessarily. I do think the golden weapon seeds certainly could have been done better, And, the rushed episode was especially present in that one scene. You could just tell how they were trying to make the most of every second. And because of that, the golden weapon scene was extremely rushed to the point where we didn't see any individual weapon being forged, or Kai's struggles, despite the fact that he had been worried about screwing up the forging. We didn't really see him struggling with it at all. And I feel like the music didn't really help it either. It just felt very rushed, very rhythmic, and that's not necessarily good. However, I can't deny that the scene was very nostalgic, because it was, and I liked it. Now, people are also complaining about the resolution to Cole's arc, but I personally find it fine. It was a fine little story. I mean, it wasn't that much, and I don't think it was that unrealistic either. I mean, he barely got out of there alive, and the writers did a good job explaining that it took a lot of effort for Cole to get out of the Oni cloud. And yeah, Oni Garmadon was really weird, but if there was one great thing about that fight, it was certainly Omega's dialogue. This was definitely one of my favorite lines from the season, and maybe as a series as a whole. You are Oni, but only in form. In your heart I sense uncertainty and doubt. Part of you longs to understand these pitiful beings. Your hopes weaken you. And I think that is just an amazing line, and it's really cool. I especially love the fight between Omega and Garmadon. But yeah, as I said, this episode certainly did have its flaws, and I think the reason why it is above episode 96 is it is a little bit more emotional, and there is a bit more action. This wasn't even a choice for me. Episode 97, The Fall, easily would take first place for me. I feel like this episode was amazing in every way, and it was practically flawless. And I gave it a 10 out of 10 on my episode review. And yeah, I mean, I feel like from every second of this episode, it was great. It didn't really feel rushed, but at the same time, it didn't really drag on either. And I think that is what the Ninjago episode really should be. The perfect balance when it comes to timing, and I think that was great. Now, in terms of balance, this episode also balanced it out with a lot of emotion and a lot of action too. The beginning of the episode was super action-packed with Lloyd and Garmadon escaping the Oni, and Pixel venturing into the darkness herself. And I thought that scene was really cool, the Oni attack. I really loved the return of old artifacts such as the Helmet of Shadows, the Sword of Sanctuary, and most notably the Golden Armor also. And I thought the setup for this arc with the Golden Armor, with the return of the weapons, was done really nicely in episode 97. And I thought that was done really nicely. Now, also, Cole's fall, people complained that it wasn't emotional enough, but I strongly disagree. I thought that the scene was amazing, and it is a great example of how silence can speak the loudest. And I think that scene was done really cool. I mean, I love the fact that there was silence except for the music playing, and I think that only made the scene better. It wasn't some huge sacrifice like Zane's. It was an accident, and accidents can happen. And that is proven through the fact that Nia was the one who was responsible. And I think that's fine. I'm not looking for some big sacrifice in every supposed death scene. And I think that was truly what was really great about the scene, is that the fact that it was Nia's fault and that she blames herself for it. This episode also really made me think that Garmadon was going to turn good. Sadly, he doesn't, but yeah, I mean, I thought Garmadon's development in this episode was amazing, especially the scene where he looks at those old photos and talks to Vinny a bit. And even that last scene, Kai and Nia, this scene did a great job of emphasizing the relationship between the two that was developed throughout Season 7, and it also set up the golden weapons. And as an individual, this episode was amazing, although some of the arcs were poorly resolved in episode 98, such as, Cole's arc in episode 98 could have been better, and as I've said, the golden weapon scene was slightly underwhelming. So yeah, but as an individual, this episode was amazing, and it was flawless. So that's going to be all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone ever you know. If you watched Season 10, be sure to leave a comment in the comment section below explaining how you would rank the 4 episodes of Season 10. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.